Alright, this video is going to cover preparing a 3D model that you've already made for the CAM process. This is kind of an intermediate between modeling your part and actually running through CAM operations. So if you have a part that's a rectangle, it's got at least two parallel edges like you see here, something you can hold in a vise, like a CNC vise, you can kind of skip this video. You won't need this. You can see that our stock on this part is defined. We're only machining into this top face. It's something that we can hold in a vise, so this video isn't for you. However, if you have a part such as this one where there are no square edges, there's nothing straight, we got a bunch of curves, this is something we're going to need to do a little more work ahead of time. So we see that our material is polycarb, so we're going to need to define some form of a rectangle to cut this part out of. So it'll kind of come together, but we're going to define some stock. So we're going to open up a new sketch on top of the face that we're going to mill down into. We're just going to define a rectangle, and we're going to, for now, just kind of eyeball where we think it's going to be. So what we need to keep in mind is how we're work holding this. This being polycarb, our stock is going to be flexible. So the plan for this is to strap it directly to the CNC table on top of a sacrificial board and mill straight down into the polycarb. If this were, say, aluminum flat stock, this you could put in a vise, clamp onto your stock, and machine out our part. For now, we're just going to worry about defining what our stock is going to look like. So essentially you need to have a rectangle boundary that you either have space to clamp onto or roughly a 1/16 to an 1/8 inch extra space on each edge for any PRZ finding error. So once you have something that looks about good, you're going to want to define a usable number that your fab team or whoever is cutting out your stock can actually measure. So I think 6 inches here is going to look just fine. That gives me ample clamping room down in this bottom corner. And as far as my vertical dimension, 8 looks about fine. We got plenty of space across all edges to the edge of our stock. More than enough clamping room here and here. Defining this rectangle right now does not matter. You can exit that sketch, leave that there, and we're going to define our part reference 0, which is going to be where you define Y and X 0 on your CNC machine. So we're going to come up to reference geometry, hit coordinate system, and we're going to define a coordinate system for 0, 0. Now, if we were to have some aluminum stock that we wanted to put into a CNC vise, you would want to define one of the back corners. You want to define off that fixed vise or fixed vise face, your fixed jaw. You don't want to necessarily define off that movable jaw. But this part we're going to clamp down onto the table, so we can define whichever corner we'd like, so long as we can get to it without interfering with our clamps. So I'm going to go ahead and define this bottom left corner. In geometry, that'll be quadrant 1's 0, 0. Define this as our X, this is our Y, and all of our coordinates will be in the positive direction from here on out. Once you've done that, you can then move on to the actual CAM portion, which will be in the following video.